You probably thought that there's gonna be no more early Windows videos this year, right? Well, I'm here to disappoint. Or surprise. Depends how you wanna look at it. The easiest way to describe NBA Hangtime to a fan of basketball games who for whatever the reason never heard of it would be to say that it's NBA Jam, but newer. Same as Jam, Hangtime 2 originated in the arcades and shares its over-the-top, fast-paced and action-packed arcade 2-on-2 basketball goodness. And as someone who doesn't care about sports at all, I have to say that it's excellent and a lot of fun. Especially in multiplayer, in which up to 4 players can enjoy it on a single system, provided that you have one of those gaming keyboards that can actually read more than just a few button presses at once, or external controllers. Each of the included NBA teams consists of only 4 real players, but given that you play the game in 2v2 mode, it's more than enough. But if you've never played NBA Jam either and have no frame of reference, then imagine normal bodies with bigger heads, explosions during slam dunks, ball catching fire all the time, players boost running around the court like on speed, and impossible shots galore. That's what NBA Hangtime is. And most of all, fun. So, it naturally does not follow all of the rules of the game to the letter. Heck, other than the fouls and out of bounds, there's not much that you'll have to keep in mind while playing. This freedom from shackles of rulebook's formula makes Hangtime much faster and fun than it would have been otherwise. I mean, just imagine how much of it you'll have defeating that buddy of yours that keeps winning at most other games. I don't know, 20, 30 times in a row? Seeing his face first lose all color and then turn all red? Bliss. Or is it just me with that kind of a born with a joystick in a hand luck friend? Anyway, not being bound by any complex rules allows you to focus all your energy on scoring in the most flashy, explosive and cool looking way, rather than worry about traveling and other such nonsense. It's clear from the get-go that Hangtime was made to provide heaps of entertainment and not even try to appear to be any kind of sports simulator. And good, because I can enjoy it like that, even managing to pull off some of those sick dunks from time to time. By sheer luck perhaps, but I do, and a simulator would bore me to death. Graphics and sounds are naturally the highlight of the game, looking arcade perfect and complementing the thrilling gameplay perfectly. So if you're in the market for a good time and happen to like basketball, you really can't go wrong with this one. In the market for a good time? I should really think more before speaking, shouldn't I? Because if it sounds like anything, it's soliciting of services of an escort and not gaming. Have you seen Twisted Metal on Peacock yet? Well, here it's on HBO Max or whatever it's called now. They seem to be changing the name on a weekly basis now. Anyway, pretty fun show, right? Plenty of shooting and explosions, some kind of a story too, perhaps not awards worthy, but fun and easy to watch and follow. And it's all based on Twisted Metal, the game. The one we're to talk about now. The game takes place in a dystopian future of 2005, and for a title that originally released on PlayStation in 1995, devs assumed that real terrible things would happen in the next decade. As we know now, they didn't. So yeah, take that, Nostradamus, you smelly old morose grouch you. Anyway, every year Calypso, a mysterious man behind it all, sends invitations to renowned drivers, offering them a chance to compete in the tournament called Twisted Metal. The winner is granted an audience with Calypso and a single wish. Whatever it may be, it is always granted without fail. Power, money, and even things that seem impossible. Calypso, it seems, is more than capable to serve a role of a post-apocalyptic one-wish genie. The catch is that the drivers in the tournament fight against each other in a heavily armored and armed cars of their own making. And while the winner will be granted anything he can dream of, the remaining 11 may and most likely will die in the process. Twisted Metal is obviously a vehicular combat game offering 6 arenas, 12 different drivers and practically limitless amounts of fun alone in a story mode or in co-op with a friend. All vehicles are armed with dual machine guns, which while not the strongest weapon out there, at least have unlimited ammo. Other, much better and deadlier weapons are picked up during races by driving over them. Stuff like mines, spikes and homing missiles among others. They can be game changers, so if possible don't skip them. Presentation wise, you can expect Twisted Metal to represent early PlayStation graphics quite accurately, so not great. First iterations of 3D did not age too well, and despite its cold status now, PlayStation was not the most powerful system out there. So they're rather simple, blocky and bland. But it's entirely unimportant, as the game more than makes up for it with playability. Sonic & Knuckles Collection is obviously a side-scrolling action platformer starring famous Cool Blue Hedgehog, and it's ported from Sega Genesis. It is however also much more than that. Not only you're getting 2 original games converted from Sega's system, so Sonic the Hedgehog 3 and Sonic & Knuckles, but also an original to this release mashup of the two, called Sonic 3 and Knuckles, which is basically Sonic 3 but with Sonic & Knuckles enhancements added on. That's not all though, as it also contains a separate so-called Blue Sphere mode, which allows for replaying of a whole collection of bonus levels from Sonic & Knuckles separately from its base game. Fun stuff. Naturally, both ported titles are identical to their originals, with no features changed or missing. None I could find, at least. Knuckles as a character provides an interesting breath of fresh air when played, as he has a different set of skills than Sonic does, so completing the same stages provides for a different feeling experience. Same as on Genesis, you can enjoy the collection in local multiplayer, and while with most games I'd say it's an ideal way of playing them, I've never been a fan of multiplayer in Sonic. It's too fast of a game with way too many quickly moving elements on screen for me to enjoy this jumble of madness at once, let alone with someone else. That said, it's a me issue and not something inherently wrong with the game itself, so don't hold it against it. If you're a fan of Sonic or even arcade platformers at all, definitely don't sleep on this one. Or do, but after completing it once or better yet twice with both protagonists before doing so. Gex is a side-scrolling platformer that originated on 3DO in 1995, just to then be ported to any popular at the time machine capable of running it. Windows was one of these. I mean, ever since 1995, Windows was, is and will be the main gaming system for the devs forever. It's flexible, versatile and most powerful platform out there and has the biggest user base, even if fragmented by their system's powers. So, Gex as a character is an anthropomorphic gecko that's obsessed with TV, who by unforeseen chain of events finds himself inside the TV world, from which he must escape by completing series of levels, getting to the villain of the game, Rash, and then defeating him. The game is divided into 5 separate different TV channels, which are split then into smaller levels for a total of 24 stages in 5 unique themes. Each TV channel ends with a boss fight. The levels are filled with differently looking and acting enemies, and they obviously have to be either defeated or avoided. As per your arsenal of weapons, there's few to choose from. For one, your default tail sweep move attack, and a selection of projectiles that Gex spits out after acquiring them through found power-ups, which can be either picked up by eating them, and then they grant the skill that they offer, or tail whipped, which makes them forfeit the skill in exchange for replenishing of your health. Your goal for each level is to locate and pick up hidden TV remotes, as plenty enough found will allow you to unlock new stages. The graphics are excellent, especially the backgrounds and all the animations that are aplenty and always smooth. Sounds are decent, definitely fitting a modern for the time action platformer. So, if you like your platformers that are both fun and great looking, make sure to check it out. The Neverhood is a side view point-and-click adventure and a very bizarre and famous at its time game, all because of its presentation, but we'll circle back to it in a minute or so. The game takes place in a world of Neverhood and you're playing as Clayman, who, believe it or not, woke up with a complete amnesia. So you've no clue who or where you are, all you know is that you're you, whomever that is, other than said Clayman, and that you're there wherever it may be. So naturally, you start exploring the area trying to find something familiar, but sadly to no avail. What you will begin finding though are the mysterious discs, each of them containing a part, a chunk, smaller or larger, of a story that in time will start forming a plot, explaining exactly what happened and what you have to do. While there's a slew of puzzles all throughout the game and some are really fun to figure out, and even more so observe the results of beautifully animated, Clayman never talks to anyone. He can meet and interact with other characters, but never speaks himself. The puzzles are of various difficulty and not paced in a way I'd like them to be, meaning that the latter don't always mean tougher and they're mishmashed, so you never really know if whatever's coming next is going to be very easy or will it require a few attempts testing your patience. But fortunately, encompassing the entire game humor negates this small annoyance in its entirety. And now, when I think about it, I don't believe that I've spoke to anyone who had anything really negative to say about Neverhood after completing it, and that's definitely something. The most noticeable and specific to Neverhood feature, however, are its graphics. They're magical, looking as if they were literally torn straight out of a high-budget Pixar movie. They're not 3D or traditionally animated though, but painstakingly made in claymation. Each character, each object, each smallest detail or element of the foreground and background was animated using the technique, and it makes for a truly enchanting experience. Especially if you realize how many of these little extra unique animations there are, and how many reactions to certain seemingly random small actions are animated too. I mean, even clicking on some objects more than it's necessary can trigger animated response. Or whenever Clayman is standing somewhere still for a little while, he will make slight gestures or point towards objects hinting what and where you'd need to do next. All that in virtually each and every location in the game. It's crazy how much effort went into it. It easily had to be thousands of hours invested into animations alone, not to mention scripting and game design. The Neverhood is a true work of art and not only a game. So if you like adventure games or titles that are just unlike literally anything else out there, it's definitely the game to track down and play. Don't miss out on this treasure. Those of you who've been watching these videos of mine and saw the similar series for those, know that I've never played any of the Mechwarrior games. Neither the classics nor the new ones, despite the latest even being in Game Pass for free. Nothing against them whatsoever, they're just not really my cup of tea. So, everything you'll hear here will be what I found about today's game online. And I have no experience with it at all. Kinda like I have no experience of being wealthy. but I did read about it online and it seems cool, I must add. Not even the buying of whatever you want part of it, you know, but throwing money at problems seems to speak to me deeply. I mean, you get ill, boom, money thrown, and you get a good specialist and a proper care. Your fridge broke down, or even few disk drives in a span of couple months? Don't you worry, don't wait for sale, just go out and get the replacements. Student debt or mortgage? They're a joke. How about paying them both off in one sweep transfer? That kind of rich seems so cool to me. Anyway, seems I'm all over the place, but not here and not talking about the games. Mechwarrior II Mercenaries is a standalone follow-up to Mechwarrior II, and while original saw you either siding with Wolf or Jade Falcon clans and following the plot set deeply in Battletech universe, this game puts you in a position where you only care for number one. Yourself, if that wasn't clear. So you run a small company of mercs, and your loyalty does not lie with any of the sides of conflict, but rather with sweet money. Whichever of the sides pays more will get your help, support and ass-kicking skills. So you'll be buying and equipping mechs, hiring pilots and taking part in many conflicts spread over numerous campaigns. Same as original, Mercenaries 2 feature excellent graphics and sound and hella addictive gameplay for those who are into this kind of a loop. So, if you are the person, you're in for a hell of a ride. Road Rash, I heard, may be what you get on those overly long 12 or 13-hour car trips. I mean, I'm guessing. No, I've read in a book about it. I never had it myself, nope, not me, no. Anyway, many like to consider original Road Rash as a bad racing game, just because it featured violence. Like that addition would also somehow subtract something else from it just by being there. Silly. But I'm here to shed light on this wrong assumption. It's not the case with original, and definitely not the case with this 1996 remake either. For me, the original was the best racer on the Amiga, so chances were high that I'd like this one too. And let me tell you, while by 1996 Road Rash's gameplay mechanics may have been a bit old, it's still fun. If you've never played it though, let me tell you what it's all about. You're basically racing against 13 other racers, and neither they nor you should stop at anything to win. And winning is obviously achieved by reaching the finishing line first. To do so, however, you don't have to be the fastest or the best racer out there. It's entirely unnecessary if you can just kick the shit out of your opponents. Yep, a strong leg and a fast punch are as, if not more important in Road Rash than the big engine is. Because while no one really cares what happens on the track, everyone does what does at the end of it though. There are 5 circuits in the game: the city, the peninsula, Pacific Highway, Sierra Nevada and Napa Valley. When you complete all of them, the game will have you race them 4 more times, each time at a bit higher difficulty. And when you manage to complete all 25 races as a winner, you will be rewarded the so-called Road Rash Cup. Naturally, the aforementioned kicking and punching part of the game is as fun as the racing is, so if you don't mind the odd mixture, you'll have a blast playing the game. There are 5 bikes in 3 speed groups available: Rat, Sport and Super, and as you go through the game earning money, you will be able to invest in better ones, usually offering a considerable performance boost. There's no way of going around it. Road Rash is not an ambitious or technically advanced title at all, but it provides a lot of fun, that moment of bliss when you forget about your daily worries and troubles and just race. And that's what's most important about it. Indycar Racing II is a follow-up to earlier Indycar and an incredibly competent and most importantly fun racing simulator by Papyrus. It used all the technological improvements that they introduced with their other game NASCAR Racing and supported many advanced for the time graphical features, like high-resolution texture-mapped 3D graphics, multiple camera views for gameplay and replays, and painstakingly detailed models for cars. But most importantly, it reworked the simulation aspect of racing to the extreme. It was so polished in fact that its shine was one of the very few things that could be seen with a naked eye from an orbit. Don't fact check that, trust me, I'm a pro. Opponent drivers' AI, detailed lifelike physics and realistic simulation of damage were top-notch too. It was an achievement whether you cared for racers or not. Oh, and if all that wasn't enough, you could tweak and customize your car's performance to your heart's content, changing nearly anything. And each, even the smallest of modifications, actually influenced how the car behaved on the track and how it felt to drive. It was magnificent. If you add to it that it featured 15 true-to-life tracks omitting Miami and Indianapolis only, Indycar Racing 2 ended up being beautiful and equally as playable simulator. So, if you're into the sport at all, it's worth revisiting even today. Samurai Shodown 2 originated in the arcades and it's a follow-up to the third game. Surprise, surprise. Although, if I remember correctly, we've spoke about the game in this very video series that had a number 3 or 5 I think in the name, and was not a 5th or 3rd part but just had it in the title. So I shouldn't really be sarcastic when talking to myself like a lunatic, should I? Whatever, I don't really know where I'm going with it anyway. So, this game takes everything that made the first one popular and dials it up a bit more, improving on the original in almost every way, even if just by a little. The original roster is expanded by adding 5 new warriors and removing Tam Tam. Not a fan favorite, so whatever, to trash he goes. The remaining original cast though is slightly revamped, in terms of moves that is. The rage system has been improved upon too, and while it's maxed out, not only the fighters do more damage with their attacks, but also can pull off super special moves, which, as their name suggests, are super and special, just like you. These supers also break opponents' weapons for a little while, which is basically crippling when it comes to their attack power. Super special attacks may not guarantee a win per se, especially when fighting against a proficient opponent, but they raise your chances of doing so considerably. Other than that, there are a few other new additions to the combat system too, namely parrying, allowing you to block attacks, low hops, ducking and somersaults. Do they complicate the gameplay as compared to the first game? For sure, by a lot actually. But they also make the game more tactical and less button mashy. So with practice they make it feel like a definite step up over the predecessor. Presentation wise, I feel that Samurai Shodown II is excellent. The animation is smooth, pixel graphics are beautiful and incredibly detailed, it just looks great. Could it be a 3D game, like many fighters were beginning to opt in 1996? Sure it could, but it wasn't necessary, and for me it aged way better than most of the early 3D titles did. To summarize, Samurai Shodown 2 is definitely not the best Windows-based versus fighting game. That said though, it's way more than just competent, and it's a nice enjoyable romp, especially if you have someone to play it against. Tempest 2000 originally released on Atari Jaguar in 1994 and was a remake of Atari's own classic Tempest. It is also widely considered as one of, if not the best game on the Jaguar. This 1996 port to Windows is basically the same game, but, well, on Windows. So you know, the exact same thing 2 years later with no changes whatsoever. Not impressive at all. They could have added something, anything. That said, and I'd like to make that clear here and now, it still, to this very day, is probably the single best vector graphics arcade shooter other than Geometry Wars. So, the fact that nothing new was added did not reflect on its quality, and it's more of a me sentiment expecting something extra after 2 years of porting. I'm greedy like that, you know? Tempest 2000 is a natural progression from the original, retaining all its gameplay but considerably expanding on playability. The game is 100 levels strong, and they're all depicted as tunnels or half-pipes of various shapes. You're fighting off enemies advancing towards you in a faux 3D effect, and your ship can only move left and right along the walls of the level, so no forward or backwards movement here. That said, those fully walled stages allow for full rotation movement as they have no gaps between the walls. Tempest 2000 may look simple, but it's anything but. It features many different and uniquely looking enemies that all behave differently, various upgrades for your ship, and psychedelic presentation, which while on entirely black background will often blind you with its colors and crazy fast motion. Good blind, and not a bad one. Is there even such a thing as being blinded in a good way? I don't know. But with Tempest, it feels like there is. It's a part of Tempest experience, you know? If you're photosensitive, however, I would avoid the game at all cost if I were you, as it can get rather flashy and chaotic. The graphics, mind you, are very simple even by 1996 standards, but their one-of-a-kind neon-like looks, flashes and explosions of light everywhere make them feel very attractive. As while there is a lot of them on the screen at once, you're never lost to what's happening. They're like some kind of a modern art that I have no way of ever understanding the meaning of, encompassing concept of its true depth, and yet I cannot look away. Tempest 2000 is super fun, but as much fun as it is, it's twice as punishing. It's not an easy game, it will eventually throw enemies at you from all sides at once in numbers close to all your digits, fingers and toes, and you'll find yourself in a position of no escape constantly. So, from the first moment you begin playing, start learning what all power-ups do, how enemies behave, and get yourself familiarized with a bit clunky controls to the point of them becoming a second nature, if you even want to have a chance to attempt completing the game. Holy 1996, Batman, what a year! For DOS, it was amazing, and it seems for Windows it is too. What were your favorites from this video? Did any of the games spark your interest? Let me know in the comments below. If you liked the video, hit those like and subscribe buttons below. Smash them if you have to, it helps more than you could ever know. Also, I would like to thank you and all my amazing Patreon and YouTube members for helping this channel keep going. And last but definitely not least, I would like to thank all the wonderful folks who record and upload playthroughs, let's plays and other retro-centric videos here on YouTube, because they help to preserve the games that would have otherwise been long forgotten. So thank you.